it's your girl Kiki Reader, and welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. Today, I have a new book for you guys. It's a standalone novel. It is called Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. To look at all of the other videos that we have, I'm going to put those links down below in this video. So let's just jump right into it. So the book starts off with our main character, whose name is Jordan. And this is actually her birthday. She turned 19 today. She works at a little dive bar called Grounders. And this is around the time she gets off, which is about 2 o'clock in the morning. And because it's her birthday, her boss let her out a little early. And so she calls her boyfriend, Cole, because he's supposed to be her ride. And he doesn't answer. And, of course, he doesn't call back. And so she figured, you know what? I'm going to probably have a hard enough time when I try and call him back at 2 o'clock. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to just go ahead and go to the movies and enjoy myself. And so that's what she does. So another thing is she has a vehicle, but she made a choice, which I do not understand this, but she made a choice to get his car fixed over hers. And it's because she felt like he had really been there for her, you know, throughout their friendship and then into their relationship. And so she made that sacrifice. I don't understand it. I didn't agree with it, but that's what she decided to do. So her boss's name at Grounders is Shell, and she's like, you know, I'll take you home. I mean, you have to wait a little while, but I'll take you. And she's like, no, it's okay. You know, I'll just go. It's my birthday. I'm going to go to the movies. They're playing some 80s flicks. I'll just go to the movies. It's right around the corner. I can run so no one can snatch me up. So she goes to the movies, and before she leaves, though, her boss gives her some donuts, because she said that's all they had at the convenience store, because she did remember it was her birthday. And she gave her a bottle of wine. And so she takes those and she goes to the movies. And so while she's at the movies, she goes to open up the wine, and of course she spills it, and she drops her phone. And so she goes down a couple of aisles, and there's a guy sitting there. And so she asks him, like, I am so sorry. She's like, but I kind of dropped my phone. Is there any way I can look underneath your seat to see if it's there? So he was nice, and he put the flashlight on his phone, and he scanned down there for her, and there's her phone. But of course, there's some wetness as well because her wine spilled. So he's like, I didn't know they served liquor here. She's like, they don't. My boss gave it to me because it's my birthday. And he's like, oh, you know, happy birthday. So then they start, you know, making small talk. And she was going to leave and go back to where she was before. But she saw her ex-boyfriend, whose name is Jay, come in with a girl. So she tries to avoid him because he's just trouble. So she does her best to just kind of stay out of his path. So that made her stay and just sit and talk with the stranger. So they're making a lot of small talk. They have a lot of stuff in common because they both love 80s flicks, and they, you know, feel like it was the greatest decade. So he sees her backpack and sees that she goes to Doral College, and he asks her about it, and she tells him, you know, she's studying landscape design. And then he lets her know that, you know, he's in construction, and he lets her know, he's like, you know what, let me just give you some advice. You're young. Just hit the ground running when you graduate. Like, just do whatever you feel your heart desires. He's like, because life really does pass you by. And so by the end of the movie, she finds herself, she's super relaxed, and she's almost like kind of leaning next to him. And she feels like she's like known him forever. But she's not like laying on him, but she's relaxed. And so after the movie, they're walking out, and Cole calls her phone. She answers it, and then the line goes dead. So then she calls the phone back, and she's like, Cole. And so the guy was like, are you talking about Cole Lawson? And she's like, yeah, you know Cole? And he's like, yeah, I'm Pike Lawson. I'm his dad. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, whoa. So basically Pike knew, he's like, if my son's calling me, he's in trouble. So come to find out, he's in jail. And what happened was, he apparently threw her a party at their apartment, even though she wasn't there, because of course, he got the party started early. So we already kind of seeing what type of guy he is. So I'm not a fan of him off rip. I don't like him. So he threw a party. It got out of hand. He, of course, was drunk. The neighbors called and complained. He got into it with one of the guests. They fought. The police came, so they took him in. So after that debacle, the landlord was like, Jordan, you can stay, but he got to go. So she, of course, wanted to be with her man. So she agreed, she was like, okay, she'll move out. Well, of course, Pike had offered, hey, you guys can stay with me. It'll save you money, and you can kind of get yourselves together. So Jordan agrees, but she does feel kind of fickle about it, because she's like, this isn't my dad, and this is just kind of weird. Because the truth of the matter is, she did kind of like the guy, in the theater, but it's like all of a sudden that guy is now the father of her boyfriend. So it's like, ugh. But she agreed. She's like, okay, cool. So they move in, and so the first day, she's like, I'll make dinner, I'll make some burgers, because she really wants to pull her weight. She doesn't want to seem like a freeloader. She wants to help out. So whether it's cleaning or whatever arrangement we come up with, she's down for it. So she's going to do the cleaning and stuff like that. And then Cole is supposed to do like the yard work and things like that. So she goes downstairs and she starts making the burgers. Cole goes outside to apparently fix on her car. She has a VW, which is, I think it's a Beetle, a Volkswagen. So her sister comes over. I guess the door was open, so the sister just walks in. And the sister's like, you could have stayed in your old apartment. You made enough to stay there. And she's like, no, I didn't. I didn't make enough. She's like, yes, you could have. She was like, especially if you would have took the job at the Hook, because her sister is a stripper at the downtown club, the Hook. And she's like, my boss has been trying to get you down there to bartend forever. So you would have been able to afford it. And Jordan doesn't want to do that because, first of all, she doesn't want to see her sister dancing. But also because having the girls start bartending is kind of how the boss gets them in, and then eventually they start stripping. And so she's like, I'm not trying to go down that route. Yes, my sister makes great money. Her sister has a small son. She, it affords a lifestyle for them, but she just doesn't want to do it. So the sister sees Pike outside. And, actually, Pike wasn't home yet. He hadn't been home yet. So then he comes home. And, of course, the sister's like, oh, this is what the dad looks like? So the next morning, Pike gets up and he's thinking about, the relationship that he has with his son. Because it's pretty, it's tainted. It was tainted more so by his mother, because Pike was 18 or 19 when he found out that Lindsay, who is Cole's mother, was pregnant. And, he gave up any I mean, he still does well for himself. I mean, he has a whole construction company that he owns. So he's worked super hard and he is successful, has a nice home. But there were things that he wanted to do, and unfortunately at that time he wasn't able to do them. But he was always there for his son. And unfortunately, he had the type of a mother that kind of used the son as like it was a chess piece, you know? So when she couldn't get her way, she would kind of turn the son against him and try and make it seem as if the dad wasn't good, even though he was a really good dad. So their relationship is very strained, and his, you know, as we saw, you know, Cole calls when he's in trouble. So when he wants something, just like his mom, that's when he calls you. So he's also going over in his mind like the night he met Jordan, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, wow, I just would have never thought that, you know, that would be the person that's dating my son. Like, wow, because he was like looking forward to the opportunity to possibly get to know her, even though he knew she was younger, but it was like still like, geez, you know. And so he gets a phone call that early morning, because this is around that morning time when he's thinking about everything. He gets a phone call from Lindsay, and she's like, how's my son doing? And he's like, he's fine. He's fed, he's warm, he has a bed, he's good. And so she's trying to screw around with Pike again. So over the years, they've kind of been off and on, not in a relationship, but just sexual, you know? So she's trying to kind of, you know, tell him, you know, we've always been great in the sack. Like, you know, we should get together. And he's like, no, I'm good. He didn't want her. So he hangs up on her. And so he goes downstairs. It's raining. And he's like, shoot. Like, you know, because with the construction site, they're going to have to put down sandbags and stuff like that. So Jordan's already up. And I think she was studying. And so he asked her, he's like, can you go up and get Cole and see if maybe he'll come and help? And she's like, yeah, I'll go up and see. So she goes up. She tries to wake up Cole. He, of course, doesn't wake up. And so she puts on some jeans and she puts on some boots and she gets a raincoat and she comes downstairs. And he's like, what are you doing? She's like, I'm coming with you. I'm coming to help. And he's like, what about Cole? She's like, he's still sleeping. It's okay. I'll come. So at first he's kind of like, nah, like you can stay. And she's like, no, I'm going to come. I'm going to help. So he lets her come, and she actually does like a really good job, like helping out. And while they're doing everything, a big gush of rain just swooshes down. And of course she's soaked. So it soaked her shirt and everything. So he sees her tits and everything. And he's, of course, turned on because she is an attractive woman. So he's like, oh, God, this is horrible. Like, this is going to be a problem. So then he decides, you know, since she doesn't have a car, like he'll try and help her, you know, help fix the car. And maybe that'll give him some time with Cole as well, because he's still trying to find a way to kind of get back to having like a good relationship with his son, even though his son fights him the whole way, but he tries, you know. And so as the weeks go on, Jordan's doing everything. She's cooking, she's cleaning, and now she's even doing the lawn work. And Pike finds out because he catches her mowing, and he goes out and he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm mowing. And he's like, no, this is Cole's job. It's not your job. And she's like, listen, it's okay. I don't mind doing it. And he's like, in his head, he's like, wow, like my son is a piece of crap. Like, he's so lazy. Like, he's barely here. You know, he comes in super late every night, and he doesn't help around at all. Like, she's doing everything. And so he was just, he was disappointed in his son. And at the same time, he was like, you're letting her know you're doing way too much. And he sees that his son is more like Lindsay than he thought, which I'm like, no, duh. Of course he's going to be that way, especially if that's who he's